So yeah, I had a couple of questions actually. The first is with regards to limited company setup. Now, sometimes you've got directors, you've got shareholders, you've got one in the same. They might be shareholders and directors. Who, from your knowledge, who ultimately dictates the direction that the company would go? Is there any clear parameters in terms of the difference between shareholders and directors, and how important is it to have a good shareholder agreement in your limited company?
Well, I'll get this one then. Yeah, the shareholders appoint the directors, so the directors run the business. They are there; they're appointed on behalf. Often, as you said, they're the same people. But where you have let's say an Apple, they would have their shareholders. They would appoint their board of directors to run the business for them. For me, a shareholder agreement is massively important. The longer I've been in this accountancy industry and looking at different businesses, to have that shareholder agreement set in stone at the beginning. Granted, things change, but provided you have that first initial document that has, even down to controls, or recently we've done a shareholder agreement where if one of the other shareholders left, that the other shareholder had first dibs on any of them shares. To get them things agreed is key. Now, when you are going to change anything, again, you just sit down and board minute it, and everything is clear. It's always transparent. But yeah, that effort at the beginning, I mean, even when I first started, it was just standard mem and arts. You just apply, and that was it. And that was fine. But the longer you've gone on, where you've seen boards and shareholders arguing, and it's just ruined businesses. To get that agreed at the beginning, I think is very important.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add to that was Mark just touched briefly there on. He said mem and arts. When you set up a standard limited company off the shelf from one of the public service providers, you will have the option to what they call adopt the standard memorandum and articles of association, mem and arts. All that effectively means is about a 35 page standard document which Companies House recommends in the absence of all others, but it's the rules. It's a standard rule book, how you should conduct business as a limited company. I would say 99 out of 100 companies that we've helped to create would adopt those standard rules for the game. Now, one of the things you mentioned there about shareholders and directors, it may sound obvious, but there is a statutory minimum number. You must have at least one shareholder and you must have at least one director. Now, as you grow in size or you become a public limited company, which is a slightly more constrained, typically larger vehicle, you will have to have a minimum of 2 directors. But generally speaking, the standard memorandum articles association are there to show you the rules that apply to most limited companies. When you get into that area of a side agreement or an extended shareholder agreement, it will be things that you apply in addition to those standard rules. So the one that Mark touched on there being what happens if an existing shareholder leaves, dies, is sacked. You may choose that those shares will automatically be offered to the existing shareholders. You may have other agreements. You may say they will be cancelled in the event of somebody leaving the company. Those shares will effectively be bought back by the company or just cancelled. So think about where you believe the company is trying to get, what that company has been set up to achieve, and see if there's something that isn't governed by that standard rule book, and do it right at that very start.